Hello there, this is Kyle again, and in this video we're going to actually install Python as well as make a first small application called Hello World. We do use the Python programming language in this course, and we're using it in a way that's sort of neutral. In fact, what people tend to say about it is they call it language agnostic. What that means is we want to teach foundational and mostly universal programming concepts without always thinking about the exact programming language. So a lot of the things that you will see in this course do carry over to other programming languages, especially some that aren't used the exact same way. But there are things such as decisions and loops that are fairly similar between different programming languages, and we're just using Python to get used to that. We do actually need to install a piece of software, and that's because, as we said in the last video about what is a program, the instructions that you write are either compiled and turned into a program that the computer can understand, or they're interpreted if it's done at runtime. Python is a scripting language, and so it is interpreted, but we need that piece of software that will help interpret the Python code. Some of you may already have Python installed, but we're going to advocate you doing these steps anyway, and that's just to make sure we have the right version. There are a lot of tutorials and other resources you're going to find that refer to Python version 2, but we're using Python version 3. And there are some significant differences, but it's not enough that if you got very used to Python 3 and then for some reason you had to update a program that was using Python 2, it wouldn't look too strange to you. You'd probably be fairly used to it. But just to be fairly current, we do want to download and install Python 3. So we're going to do that right now. The instructions are basically there. It's nothing too complicated, but I'll step you through it anyway. Here we go. Probably the first natural step is to open up your favorite web browser. I don't think it really matters what it is. And we want to find Python. So you can navigate directly to python.org, or you can just search for Python. And if you do that, you'll find it somewhere up near the top. So we're going to download Python, so you can go to downloads, and as soon as you hover over the downloads link on python.org, you should see a download link for the operating system that it detects. And we do want you in this program to have a Windows machine, so we recommend this one, and the instructions say download the latest stable release of Python 3, and that's what we're going to do. So we're going to download this, and we're going to run this application. It is not a virus. Run it by whatever means your computer allows. If you've had to save it and then run it from a location, you can do that. One thing to note here is that it's very important to click the checkbox that says Add Python to Path at the bottom. And now we just want to let the installer run. There is a time lapse here. This is taking a few minutes. And we're ready. So now we have Python installed. And it doesn't look like much, does it? Well, we don't have anything running. But there is something we need to do. So let's open up Python. If we just type Python into our taskbar, or find it by whatever means, you'll see this application called idle in all capitals. IDLE. Python, if you need a bit of trivia, it was named after the British comedy troupe Monty Python, of which Eric Idle was a prominent member. So the developers of Python named their development environment the very basic idle development environment after him. So we've got Python now. We've got a Python. We can run Python. Let's do something with it. As a suggestion for what we're going to do, we're going to create and run a program that we might call Hello World. And this is a traditional thing. It's not something that we make up for this program. It is something that pretty much everyone does as the first thing they do when they're learning a new programming language. And you can see the Wikipedia page for examples about Hello World. So here's what Hello World looks like in C++. You actually need to include the IOStream module, and you need to output it just like that. It needs to be part of a function, so it returns 0. And here's what it looks like in C#. It's also a little complicated in that it needs to be within a class and within a main method. In JavaScript, things start to get easier. JavaScript is a scripting language, so there's no compilation necessary. It's just running line by line. And so we see it's just document.write hello world in parentheses and quotes. In Python, it's also pretty easy. It's probably the simplest looking among the ones we've looked at. And a lot of people say that Python is a great language to learn on because of things like this. So to get Python to print hello world, this is literally all we have to do. Let's jump back to idle and write some Python. So all we need to do to get this to run in the idle Python shell is we do print. We open parentheses, We put a quote in it. It could be a single quote or a double quote in Python. We do hello world, exclamation point. Some people might insist on the exclamation point, some people might not. That's not really the point. And we need the quote, and then we need to end the parenthesis. And when we hit enter, this amazing thing happens. Python says back to us, hello world. It has run that line of code and printed it back to us. This probably doesn't seem that groundbreaking. If you want, we can do it in a new Python code file. You can do this by going to File, and then New File, and then it's here. We haven't talked about what a development environment means yet, but idle is a development environment. It's not very feature-rich, but there are times when it's useful. And you can just go in here and print, and we can write the same thing. And there we go. It's an entire program. What we can do is we can actually save this program. We go File, Save As, and I'll just save it to the desktop for now. And I'll call it hello world.py, py.py. That's the accepted file extension for Python for the most part. So hello world.py. And now if I go run and run module, we'll see that it runs. It runs it from the file. And now we have a working hello world program. It's not very sophisticated yet, but you keep watching these videos and we'll see something getting better. But at the very least, we've got a working program. And if you followed the steps from earlier, then Python is installed on your computer, which is very important to do early in this course. In this video, we made sure Python was properly installed and we wrote a hello world program. If you have had some sort of problem to this point, it'd be a very good idea to get in touch with your professor reasonably quickly to solve that. In the next video, we're going to talk about other editors and development environments you can use with Python. And I guess if you want to check your understanding, maybe make sure you could tell someone where they could download Python from. It might also be useful to know how to make a hello world program using Python.